Hi everyone, my name is Lobhang Levipi. I'm the founder and CEO of Best House. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I want us to talk about 5 ways to invest in property. So there's about five ways that you can, at least about 5 ways that you can use to invest in property, or that you can use to finance or to fund your property. Number one is when you don't have any money. There's what you call property hacking, where you can use your current space, your current house, that room that you're not using there, at the corner there, that you're using as a storeroom. You can clean it up, turn it into a unit that you can rent it out to tenants, and you can start receiving rental income from that particular unused space in your current house. So you can use no money in order for you to fund or to start your property investment journey. So let's assume that you don't have want to use any monies, but you already have unused space in your house, that you are not using, or that you're using to store things that you don't even need. Sometimes, because we were taught growing up, we were taught not to throw away everything. Even though you don't need, that you're not gonna need this particular thing, you just store it for the sake of storing it. They always tell you that you might not know what you might need this for next time. So you just store useless things. You just store things that you don't even need. You store things that you're not gonna even find a use for in that particular space. So it used, and now you end up having a space that you're just wasting it by storing things that you might not even need, things that you might not even use even in the future. So I want us to talk about now not using your money in order for you to start your property investment journey, in order for you to fund your property, in order for you to create passive income from your property. So the first thing that you can use is no money. So you can fund your property without using any money at all, by just using that unutilized space in your property, and you are able to now go in and start investing, getting investment, property getting going. So meaning that you are able to turn that space that you're not using into an accommodation space, and you can draw up a contract and have your first tenant, ladies and gentlemen, use your unused space. It's called property hacking. By using the space that you're not using, the space that you've been storing things that you don't need, by using that space and turning it into a residential accommodation space, and then you rent it out to a tenant. You have a contract with that particular tenant, which is your lease agreement, and then that tenant starts paying money into your bank account. It's very, very important to have your the rent money paid into your bank account, so that you can create a track record of rental income. So that is going to be called rental income, ladies and gentlemen. So once you've started receiving a rental income from that unused space that you've had all these years, and you didn't use it, you didn't hack it because you didn't know about property hacking. So you use that space, you turn it into a residential accommodation, you rent it out, and then you get your first tenant to start paying you rent without you using any of your money, ladies and gentlemen. So in that space, you now have your first tenant. So your first tenant has a contract that you use. That contract, you can use it to get finance from the bank. So you need to create that contract, that lease contract that your tenant needs to sign, and you sign that lease contract, and the tenant must pay the funds into your bank account. So it's very important to create a paper trail, ladies and gentlemen, because when you go back to the bank and you now want funding for your future investment properties, they're gonna want to see a paper trail. They're gonna want to see your First thing first, they're going to want to see your lease agreement. And then once you have your lease agreement, they're going to want to see all this rental income that you are referring to in that particular contract. Because sometimes, a lease agreement is a piece of contract that you can actually manufacture yourself. You can fabricate that particular piece of paper, but they also want that piece of paper to also go hand in hand with your income, your rental income in your bank account, so that they can be able to trace it and to be able to see if you really are receiving that rental income. So it's very important that you can use your property, that unused space, turn it into an accommodation space, or turn it into a rentable space and rent it out, have a lease contract, and have your tenant pay rent into your bank account. Very, very important. So if you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, please do drop them on the comment section below. We'll then tackle them as we go along. So if you have any questions, drop them on the comment section and we will tackle them as we go along. So that's number one. It's called property hacking. You don't have to use any of your money in order for you to invest in that particular, to start your property, to fund your property journey. So number two that I want to talk to you about is using your own money. So now you can use your own money to invest in property. That's the second way of how you can fund your properties, by using your own money. If you've had a bit of savings that you've had over the years or over the months, and they're sufficient for you to invest in property, you can do so. But in doing so, I want you to be smart about it. Instead of let's assume that you have saved about R500,000. So instead of taking the whole R500,000 and investing it in one property, I would want you to be smart about it. So take the whole R500,000 and spread it across 5 properties. Instead of you investing in just one property and taking all of your money and investing it on one property, I want you to spread it across at least about 5 properties, or about 4 or about 3 properties, instead of you having to invest in just one property. Instead of taking the R500,000 and putting it in one property, rather take the R500,000 and put it as a down payment for 5 properties. Have a down payment of at least about 100,000 rand each for each property, and then let the bank finance the rest. So that's number two. That's the second way of you investing in property, using your money in order to fund or to finance your property. But you must do it in the smart way. You don't have to do it in the traditional way, where you can just take your money and take all your money, your whole R500,000 rand, and put it in one property. I want you to spread it across a number of property investment and receive rent from multiple tenants, as opposed to having you invest in one property that produces one income. So you can have 5 properties that you would have put your money into, and that can produce rental income, and be able to make sure that that particular property, it now sustains itself, and it also pays you at the end of the month. So you must do the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. We will have a live tomorrow at 6 p.m. as well, but this time around it's going to be on my Instagram page. I'm Lebogang Lebepe in my Instagram page. So that's exactly where you can have we'll be talking about doing the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. How do you do the numbers? How do you calculate and make sure that your property is cash flow positive? How to make sure that your property is cash flow positive? So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in our live in Instagram tomorrow. So I want you to obviously make sure that you join me tomorrow at 6 p.m. where we're going to be talking about how to do the numbers, how to calculate and make sure you do your numbers. Let's see. Tabiso, you're saying they will all fall under one bond. Yes, you can actually apply. You can use one bond for multiple properties, ladies and gentlemen. So that's the third way you can fund your property, by using the bank's money. So the third way you can use, it's using the bank's money. So you can actually have one bond that is actually financing multiple properties. So we'll unpack more as we go along around that particular topic of how to use one bond to finance multiple properties. You can have one bond that services all the properties that you have, that has you have one bond but it actually finances multiple properties. So that's exactly what you can use. You can use the bank's money, but it's very important when it comes to the bank's money. So it's very important to make sure that your credit score and your credit record is clean, ladies and gentlemen. It's very important to make sure that your credit record and your credit history is clean, and you also have to make sure that you can afford your installment. So if you are applying for a traditional bond within the traditional banks, you're gonna have to make sure that you are able to afford that repayment installment. So that's exactly what you need to do. Let's have a look at the comment section below. I see Tebogo is saying, how can the bank finance someone who doesn't work or own any asset or property? So the bank needs two things. When you go into the bank, you need two things. You need a credit score that is good, a credit history that is clean, and also you need to have affordability. So if you're not working, so you need to have an income of some sort. So you need to have a track record of an income. You need to be earning a sustainable income. So the bank would want to see if your income is sustainable, so that they can be able to, finance you. But if your credit score is good, there's other ways that you can structure your property deal. There's what you call asset funding that you can actually talk to your banker about, and that they can actually have a look at if you are worthy of them financing that particular property deal that you have. Does the numbers make sense? Are you able to make profit from this particular asset, and are you able to sustain the repayment of that particular bond? And are you able, how's their risk appetite in terms of the deal itself? And also when it comes to you as an individual, it's very important for them to assess you as an individual and make sure that you as an individual, it's safe for them to bet on you. So when people are giving you money, when the bank is giving you money, when institutions are giving you money, when companies are funding you, they actually bet on you, more on you than on the deal itself, because that deal would not happen if you are not there. And because you are the principal person, so they need to make sure that you are safe for them to bet on you. So they need to assess their risk and make sure that their risk is it's managed properly, and it's also they are comfortable with the level of risk that they have to put on you. So that's exactly what the bank will have to look at when it comes to them funding you. So I said number one, it's called house hacking, where you don't have to use any money in order for you to invest in property. So number two is when you're using your own money in order for you to invest in property. Number three is when you're using the bank's money in order for you to invest in property or to fund your property investment. So when it comes to the bank, you need your credit score to be on par, and you also need your affordability to also be on par. That's exactly what it means and how you get to invest in property. So number four that I want to talk to you about this particular evening is that you can invest in property by using private institutions, ladies and gentlemen. Private institutions such as your TAF, construction loans, and your companies such as Indlu that funds your backrooms and stuff like that. So there is private institutions that do fund your property investment. TAF is one of them. Indlu is one of them as well that you can actually use in order for you to invest in your property journey. So that's exactly another way to invest in property, or to fund your property investment, or to finance your property investment. Let's see. Deboho is asking, are there any other financial institutions apart from traditional banks that are recommended for someone who wants to venture into property developments? Yes. So there are companies that fund property developments, and there are companies such as Inlu that also fund property investment. There are companies such as TAF that actually fund property investments and property development, but they have their own criteria as to what they're looking at and what they're looking for, and what justifies their investment, and what qualifies you as an individual and your company to be able to be funded by them. So you want to have to do a little bit of research by looking them up, and be able to now do your own research as to what is their requirements and how do they get to fund you. But they are other private institutions. That's another way. That's the fifth way of you investing or funding your property investment. So that's another way of you financing or funding your property investment. Asset number one, it's you're using no money, using a strategy called house hacking, by just using unutilized spaces that in your house to rent it out and start receiving rental income. Number two, it's using your own money and spreading across and having multiple properties using the limited amount that you have. And number three is using the bank's money. Number four is using your other institution, private institutions, in order for you to invest in property. And there are other venture capital companies that specializes in funding property investments. Number five, there's also private investors, ladies and gentlemen. You can approach private investors. These are people that have the money, but they don't have the time in order for them to go look for property deals. They have the money, they want to put it in property, but they don't know how to do the numbers. They don't have the time to be learning about these property strategies, and going out to shop for properties. So that's another way of you using private investors in order for you to invest in your property or start your property investment journey. So you can use the private investors to do that. So when it comes to private investors, you're looking at a number of things. Number one, you need to be trustworthy. Integrity is very important in this line of business, especially if you want someone to trust you with their money. You need to be transparent. You need to show them the numbers. You need to also be able to package the deal and send it to them in order for them to consider investing on you and investing in you and investing with you in that particular property deals. When it comes to private investors, there's a number of ways that you can actually use in order for you to invest in that particular property. There's you can use the private money by doing something called wholesaling, by just packaging the deal and passing it over to private investors that have the money, but they don't have the time to go out and look for deals. Or you can do partnerships with these particular individuals, where they bring the money in the table, you bring in the deal, the skills and the expertise and the knowledge into that particular private property investment. So you need to be very trustworthy. Trust is the biggest thing when it comes to private investors. Private investors are looking for people that they can trust, people that are reliable, people that would not wake up and run away and give them stories and give them problems tomorrow. So that's exactly what would happen if you want to use private investors' money. And number six that I wanted to talk to you about is fractional investments. So fractional investments is things like when you buy shares into real estate investment trusts, when you buy shares into property investment funds, when you buy shares or when you fractionally own a property. Let's assume that you and your friends, you have a bit of money, you've saved up each about 100,000 rand. So it's the 10 of you, you have each a minimum of about 100,000 rand. So jointly you have about 1,000,000 rand. So jointly you can actually invest in a property. So you can combine those resources together, and you are able to invest in that particular property deal. So as a result, you fractionally own that particular property. So if you buy a property worth 1,000,000 rand, so that means that that property is worth 1,000,000 rand. You've only put down about 100,000 rand. So that means that it's 10% of the total value of that particular property. So you own the fraction of the particular property. So that means that you own the fraction of the property instead of owning the whole property by yourself. So that is called fractional investment. So when you're buying shares into a group scheme, a share scheme, so you are also participating in fractional ownership. So you are still investing in property, you are still funding your property investment, but you are now leveraging on the power of collective investment. So that's exactly what it's called. It's called collective investments because you are now putting in money together in order for you to achieve a common goal, and in order for you to invest in property and be able to benefit from those particular property investments. So that's exactly what it means by these type of investments. So that's exactly what I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, please do continue to engage and drop on all the questions. Head on to my YouTube channel. I've just started my YouTube channel. I'm Lebogang Lebepe on YouTube as well. So these are type of topics that we're going to hold in there, and we're going to discuss such things. And you can head on to my Instagram as well, like my Instagram page and follow me on Instagram, because that's where we're also going to have lives. Tomorrow we'll be talking about how to do the numbers, how to calculate the numbers on a property and make sure that it's cash flow positive and make sure that it's beneficial to you and to your company. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So that's it for today, because I have other commitments. I can't stay long on this live. I see Lungelo is saying please save the video. So I'll definitely do that, Lungelo. So thank you very much for that particular comment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time and your patience and your engagement as well. Thank you very much for engaging with me. Let's chat tomorrow on my Instagram live, and let's